Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Pashhammer. Today I'm going to talk you through the latest event that I went to, which was the Toy Soldier event held in Stockport at the Element Games Northwest Gaming Centre. I was lucky enough to, spoiler, get myself a first place prize, and I wanted to tell you all about the games that I played, how I prepared for it, what goes into winning a tournament, and all the effort that is involved. Hopefully you'll find this video useful. If you do, hit that like button, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, and ask me any questions you want. Always happy to talk about Warhammer. Onwards with the event. Toy Soldier was hosted by a trio of tournament organisers. Dave Harbord was the non-playing tournament organiser. He was the one on the day who was keeping everybody on time. We had two assistant TOs and referees with Mark Muslick and Max Horseman. They were also playing in the event themselves, so Dave did a lot of the sort of legwork on the day, but I believe it was a team effort overall. Let's have a little look. A few interesting things about the event. It was the largest grand tournament since the FAQ and the Match Play Guide came out in the UK. We had 38 players attend in the end. It was a bit of a shark tank, to be honest. 10 of the top 20 players in the UK as currently ranked were in attendance, so it was a lot of really hard fought games. We were using pretty much no comp, just the Grand Melee and Combined Arms standard restrictions that are sort of like very low comp. And we were using the Match Play Guide 660 scoring system as suggested by the GW. There wasn't really anything too wacky there. We played match play scenarios, including Breakpoint and also King of the Hill, so that played a factor. There was a couple of house rules in order, primarily around things that could come back. So things like the Green Knight, that affects my list, and others such as Hellpit and Flamespire, they would give up 50% victory points if they died and came back later in the game. If they didn't come back at the end of the game, then they gave up full points as normal. And then there was also basically a slight edit onto no dodgy cannon shenanigans. Essentially, if you can't see your target, you can't shoot it. Sometimes people get a bit creative when things hide behind hills and they're able to lob cannonballs over that. So we didn't play with any of that. And we also used the new Recruit tournament software, which is a fantastic piece of kit. I really recommend giving it a try, and I will put the link for the event in the description so you can have a look at the lists yourself. You can have a look and see how everybody got on. But that was basically it. That was the event. Let's have a look at the venue. So Northwest Gaming Centre is a famous tournament venue that's been around for probably at least 20 years. I've certainly remember going to it since sort of mid-2000s. It has improved an awful lot since its early days. It's in its best iteration that it's ever been. Element Games have really done a good job on it. And yeah, it's a fantastic place. If you do get a chance to go, I'd highly recommend it. It's located in Stockport, which is sort of in the centre of the country. Bit of a long drive for us Scots. It's probably about 4.5 hours, give or take. Stockport is a rustic town. It's probably fair to say that some of it looks a bit industrial and decrepit, but hey ho, that's parts of the UK. This is Northwest Gaming Centre here. You basically, let me just drop a pin here. So you basically arrive at this junction. There's a Premier Inn across the road, which I highly recommend staying at, only just because of the location to the venue. It's literally right across the road. And then you go into this bit here, which is in this building is the gaming centre itself. There's a little car park out here. I believe there's an old paint factory at the back there as well. I don't know if it's still a factory there. But basically, there's a little car park. There's a little car park at that end here as well. This is what the outside of the venue looks like. It's nothing too exciting. To get inside, you can either go through, I believe. Yeah, to get inside, you go through to one of these entrances here. But to be honest, most people walk through the car park and go through the back. And this is what the venue walk through looks like now. So when we arrived on Friday, this is basically what it looked like. This looks like an average Friday for them. It's quite a busy place. Lots of space for gaming. There was some magic happening. There were some people playing 40k. There's some people playing Crisis Protocol. It's a nice place. They have a bar, on-site bar there as well. Hopefully you'll be able to see that as well. Yeah, just the Warlock's bar there. They also do this really cool thing where you can get table service. You just QR scan it and you can get drinks right to your table. It's a little bit dangerous, but actually a really good idea overall. So definitely recommend that. The shop itself is exceptionally well stocked. Probably the best stocked shop in the UK. Huge amount of miniatures and paints and supplies and everything, and probably the best selection of old world kit that I have seen, including having been to Nottingham Warhammer World. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. They have so much choice. It was very difficult not to walk away with a couple of bits and pieces. So it was definitely worth a visit. So what did I take? I decided for this to take Bretonnian Exiles. I was getting a little bit disenchanted playing Chaos Warriors, and I felt like after 1.5 changes, they perhaps weren't quite as competitive as I wanted them to be, and there wasn't really anything I was getting excited about there. So I thought I'd try something completely different and play Bretonnians. It's not an army that I know particularly well. I don't know all the rules, or I certainly did it before I didn't before I started this, and I thought it would be a good learning experience for me. I didn't have particularly high expectations. I thought, you know, if I walk away with maybe 2 or 3 wins, that would be great, having learned something. It's a very tough field. Everybody there is an expert in their army. So I certainly didn't expect to do as well as I did. That was, you know, a surprise for me as much as it was for anyone else. The Bretonnians that I had were completely borrowed. They were actually scrounged from some friends. Thank you very much for lending me that out. They were Ukrainian color themed. And as it happened, it was actually Ukrainian Independence Day on the Sunday, so it was maybe the fates were in the stars for this to go as well as it did, and maybe that's what it is. So let me take you through my list, and here's what I took. So on it, I had the Green Knight. Other than giving up the 50% restrictions, 50% victory points when he dies the first time, there's no restriction on the Green Knight, so he was as he is at the rulebook. He was particularly fantastic, being able to lock down lots of big characters who don't really have a huge amount of magical attacks, being able to take on whole units by himself. He was really good in that sense. He was probably one of the main key pieces for the success of this army. I also took a Baron who was on Royal Pegasus. He had the fairly standard loadout that you see in Bretonnian Exiles. 2-up rerollable armor save. He's got Virtue of the Knightly Temper, which gives him D3 extra attacks on the charge, and Hatred. Gives him the Frontier Axe, which is sort of one of the better weapons in the game. Overall, really solid piece. He did a fair bit of damage at the weekend. I had an Outcast Wizard just on foot. He was a level 3 on Battle Magic, and he had the Prayer Icon of Quenelles, which extends the dispelling range of this wizard by 3 inches, and also gives him a +1 to dispel hexes. Really useful utility piece. 130. Exceptionally cheap for what he does and what he brought to the table. He rolled a lot of ward saves, which was great because I usually kept him in the Yeoman to protect them and blast out the odd magic missile or use a bit of Arcane Urgency to move things around. One of the other key pieces of this list was the Paladin. The Paladin was on Barded Pegasus. He had the Virtue of the Impetuous Knight. This is a key thing, so essentially it makes him and his unit impetuous, which is fine, under 1.5. But it also extends the declarable charge range of that unit by 3 inches, which meant that my Pegasus Knights, which I'll show you later, basically had a declarable charge range of 22 inches, and also they could amend their charge by an additional D3. So essentially, when the Pegasus unit charged, it had movement 10, it rolled 2d6, picked the highest, it rolled another d6 for its Swift Stride, and then it rolled a further d3 for the Virtue of the Impetuous Knight. It was absolutely humongous change, and it made a massive threat range for the list. So definitely part of its success. One of the other things he had was the Spell Eater Axe, which gave him and his unit magic resistance 2, which is very, very helpful. It basically kept most, if not all magic, I think, away from that unit for the whole game. He had a Charmed Shield just to give him a little bit of extra survivability because he was just on a Barded Peg. And he also had the Banner of Shalons, which is a no stand and shoot banner, which was really helpful. I think it kept the unit alive a little bit better than it would normally, and it meant that I could do longer distance charges if I really wanted to do that. So 190 points for that. Absolute bargain. Big massive piece of the game. So yeah, definitely a big part of it. Into the core, we had 5 Mountain Knights of the Realm. They were just in their pants. Well, I mean, they were mounted, but they had no upgrades. To be honest, they're mandatory. So I have seen this version of the list with them being on foot. They were fine being on horses. I mean, that meant they could go out and grab some objectives, or they could threaten smaller skirmishing units or war machines. They weren't particularly amazing, but they weren't terrible. Nothing that there's nothing really that I expected of them for their points cost and their role. So they definitely were fine. Followed that, I have 3 units of 12 Peasant Bowmen, which were phenomenal. In skirmish formation, these guys were able to capture objectives. They were able to put wounds on things. They've actually got a pretty decent weapon skill leadership for their points costs. They're phenomenal value. It was quite often that my opponent were spending, a big dragon unit or something chasing these peasants, and I was more than happy for them to keep themselves busy with that. So definitely a good part of the list there. Backing up to them, we had a large unit of Yeoman Guard, 25, full command, and including the additional champion with the Blessed Triptych, which gives them stubborn. They already have shield wall, so it's a really good defensive unit. They also have the War Banner for additional combat res, which essentially meant that they had close order, often had outnumber, they often had 3 ranks, a banner and war banner. They have a static res of 7 before they do any wounds. They don't do an awful lot of wounds, but they were very, very defensive. They were really good to lock characters down and be able to be flanked by things like the Peg Knights. Speaking of which, I had a big chunky unit of Peg Knights. There were 6 of them. They only had a banner bearer, and I wasn't able to afford any more in this list. I ran out of points. A champion would have been quite nice, and so would a musician, actually, to be honest. But we had 6. We had the Errantry banner. The Errantry banner is quite a useful thing. It gives the unit +1 strength on the charge, essentially making your heroes, making the likes of your Baron strength 7 when he charges, making your Pegasus Knight strength 7, making your Pegasus strength 5 on the charge. It didn't help go through armor, which is a bit of an issue with these, but it did help, go through lightly armored, tough units. It was really hard hitting units, so definitely a big plus for the army. And last but not least, 2 staples of any Exiles list is 2 Bombards, which were phenomenal the whole weekend. I think they misfired and died maybe only once out of all the 5 games. Other than that, they killed so much, and they were absolutely phenomenal in there. So that's the list done. Let's have a look at the games. Onwards to round 1. So round 1 was a fairly standard setup. It was close quarters and normal 6 turn game. There was special rules that the narrow edges were impassable, but that didn't really come into effect in my game. And it also had 2 strategic locations as the secondary objectives, one for each side. In this game, I played against one of Team England's finest, Mr. Grandpa Toal himself, Steve Toal, with his Warriors of Chaos. Let's have a look at his list. So what did he have? Steve had Chaos Lord, Shield General, Marcus Zinch on a Chaos Dragon with a Flail and Favor the Gods. That's the maximum you can take under this restriction. The Marcus Zinch was there to give him Magic Resistance 1, give him some flaming attacks, which I don't know if it came up, but certainly it made him quite a nasty target. He's still unit strength 10, so you can claim the close order bonus, one of the only units that can do that. That's a Behemoth. And it was quite a nasty threat. However, not as nasty as this next one, which was an Exalted Champion, also on a Chaos Dragon, also with a Marquezine. She had a great weapon, Armor of Meteoric Iron, 3 favors, and Crown of Everlasting Conquest. Essentially, this means this dragon has a 5-up fixed armor save, can't modify it, 5 up ward save, and 5 up regen save. It was very, very nasty, and it was probably one of the scariest units in this list. I definitely wanted to make sure that I kept that busy. Backing that up, we had 2 units of Chaos Knights that were undivided, and 3 units of 7 Marauders with flails, which again were undivided. Last but not least, Steve did have a Warfire Dragon, which you'll see why, but I have come to loathe. At least in this game here. He did have Wizard level 1 on it. I don't think he particularly used it. I don't think he really rolled very much on it. He got Hammerhand, I think. I don't believe he actually ever did come up against it. So let's have a look at the game itself. And this is how we deployed. This is after Steve got the first turn, so he's already done a bit of movement, but this is basically roughly the deployment. You'll see at the very top left, he has a unit of Marauders, unit of the Marauders at the back holding his objective, and a unit of Marauders at the other side going up against my flank. He has a unit of Knights down the middle, a unit of Knights down the side, Warpfire hiding over here beside his big Chaos Dragon Lord, as well as his Exalted on the other flank going up against my flank. For me, I had a Bombard set up in the bottom right corner, paired with some Peasants beside it, some Peasants at the bottom to help hold objectives, Yeoman sitting in the middle with the Wizard, the Wizard actually somewhere else. The Yeoman was here, Pegasus Knights in the middle, and then we have some Peasants here in the bottom left, another Bombard in the corner, and the Knights here in the bottom left as well. In terms of terrain, you'll see the Green Knight there. That was just for me to remember to bring him on in case I forget. That middle ground there was a big wood, which is obviously huge for having the Green Knight. That top right piece was also another wood, so another opportunity for the Green Knight to come on. Turn 1 went fairly swiftly. Nothing too crazy. Let's see what happens in turn 2. So this is how things look like towards the end of my turn 1 as I went second. Basically, things just shuffled around, angling for better shots on things. A couple of key things here, I believe. First things first, the Bombard here moved back. The Green Knight did appear. If I'm not wrong, yeah. The Green Knight did appear from this wood here at the top. Now, I had basically 2 options. I could either charge and keep his Chaos Lord busy, but he had quite a few magical attacks, even just basic magical attacks, or I can keep his Exalted Champion busy. I ended up going for Exalted Champion because he was a bigger problem. He had fewer attacks as well, and it meant that I could basically keep this corner sort of safe for a little while if I could get rid of the Marauders. Ended up being quite a good decision in the end. It kept that dragon out of the game for the most part. My Pegasus Knights did a massive fly. I believe I got Arcane Urgency off as well. So they actually had like 40 inches of movement, which is ridiculous. They managed to park themselves in between the Warpfire Dragon and the Chaos Lord facing, who could not see them. So basically it meant that wherever they go, I had a good chance of charging whatever target I wanted to in the next turn. So let's have a look and see what happened there. So this is what the end of turn 2 looked like. Basically, Steve made a beeline to put his Chaos Dragon towards my Yeoman block. His Sorcerer... Oh, sorry, his Exalted Champion actually failed a break test and fled through these Chaos Knights. My Green Knight, obviously not being able to pursue, had to overrun into the Chaos Knights there, which I thought was going to end up well. It wasn't particularly amazing. On this flank over here, I initially charged the Knights here in the bottom left who fled, and I decided rather than pursue them and end up in the middle here, what I would do is I would actually just redirect into the Warpfire Dragon. I thought the maths was on my side. I had a bit of static res, a decent number of attacks, and I wanted to see what would happen. As it turned out, I rolled exceptionally terrible. The dice were absolutely crazy, and the Warpfire Dragon basically managed to hit and wound. Every single hit that it did, it killed something. I didn't manage to roll one armor save. It did something like 8 or maybe 9 wounds to the Peg Knights in the first round of combat, and I ended up losing it, but I did have my stubborn, so I popped back through there as well. End of round 2, things are looking okay. I've killed a few marauders. I'm starting to get a few points for objectives. A few things are fleeing, but my main unit is in contact with the Warpfire, which I'm hoping to kill by next round. However, that wasn't what fate had in store. So let's have a little look. In the next round, this is at the end of turn 3. You'll notice that there are no more Peg Knights left. You'll also notice there's no Warpfire left. What happened was basically the next round, the Warpfire continued its luck and destroyed the rest of my Peg Knight unit. So basically, in 2 rounds of combat, the Warpfire Dragon did something like 16 wounds to my Peg Knights. I didn't manage to pass 1 armor save. I could not do any hits or wounds to it. Or maybe I did 1 wound, but it was very, very tough. It basically just absolutely destroyed him. I feel like the dice might have gone against me in that sense, but maybe I shouldn't have actually charged into the Warpfire and just shot it instead. And in fact, once the Pegasus did die, what happened was I was able to shoot my 2 cannons at it and destroy it in 1 go. So I should have just done that in the first turn, and it probably would have taken this onto a win. Alas, it was not to be. Steve decided to move his Chaos Dragon rather than charge it into the Yeomen, which are stubborn anyway. He decided to come back through here. I think he wanted to see if there was going to be any Pegasus left. But by that, by the time we finished that combat, they were actually all dead. So he was sort of fighting a retreat by that point. My Green Knight here, I think I did a little bit of damage to the. I did a couple of wounds to the knights. They did a fallback. No, they did a give ground. At which point I restrained and I charged his fleeing his fleeing Exalted Dragon. Now that I think about it, I think this is the point. That's what it was. At the beginning of this turn, I think Steve rallied at one point. He did fail a stupidity test. He rolled a 1 for his Gaze of the Gods. He then re-rolled it with a favor and rolled stupidity again at one point in turn 1 or 2, and then he did fail a stupidity test at some stage. I think at which point I charged him again, and he after the combat he lost combat again and fled, and I failed to catch him by about an inch as well. So that was a little bit frustrating. But at this point, end of turn 3, we have a dead pegs, some dead knights on his side, at least 1 set of dead marauders, another set is diminished, and I'm starting to take wounds on his Exalted Dragon, who I think is down to only a few more left. So let's have a little look and see what happens at the end of turn 4. Turn 4, I think by this stage we'd basically destroyed all of Steve's marauders. He has these 3 knights left, which I was shooting and just wasn't able to sort of kill them off. They're still on the table. I'm still claiming some points here. He's stopped claiming his objective a while ago. This marker here is actually the Exalted Champion with the dragon. The Green Knight basically just pursuing him and stalking him and just attacking him. I think I managed to get him down to maybe 2 or 3 wounds. I think it must have been 2 wounds, because I did get some points for him in the end. But in the end, I didn't actually manage to defeat him, and he stayed on the board. And if I'm not wrong, I believe that is actually the last image that I have of that game. Yeah, we played out the last couple of rounds, but essentially Steve went off to hide both dragons bravely in the behind that hill there for my cannons. Because there was no cannon shenanigans, I couldn't target in front of the hill and hope to get a big shot or anything. And my Green Knight just wasn't able to take off the last few wounds or break the Exalted Champion. So at the end of that game, I ended up losing my Baron, my Paladin. The Wizard was still alive. I lost the Peg Knights. I think I lost a unit of... I lost my Knights of the Realm. You can see the stuff in the dead pile there. Knights of the Realm. I'm pretty sure one of the bombards exploded, and I also lost a unit of peasants there as well. So Steve did lose some points for his Exalted Dragon. He lost 1 unit of knights, all his marauders, and the Warpfire Dragon as well. So Steve had a total of 1,100 victory points that he lost through units that died, and he gained 120 through objectives. I lost 1,423 victory points, and I gained 360 through objectives. So the end result was basically there was 83 victory points difference between our scores, and it ended up a 3-3 draw, which wasn't too bad because the second round was a really bad scenario for going up against anybody who was vampires, and there was plenty of vampires players there, and it was something that I wanted to avoid as much as possible, and I did get lucky in the second round, and I came up against Orcs and Goblins. So let's have a look. So in round 2 I played Matt Craufurd. Now this was his army, absolutely gorgeous Orcs and Goblins army, with these lovely little conversions for fanatic pens, I guess. They're all hopping around in there. He had these really cool sort of old school style wyverns as well, and everything was just beautifully painted. He, spoiler, he did win the Best Painted award, and it was very, very well deserved. It was a beautiful army to play against, and it was a thoroughly good game and really, really good fun to play in. What did he take? Let's have a little look and see. And here is what Matt took. So he had a Night Goblin Big Boss with a shield, BSB, Wallop as one-hit wonder. He had another Night Goblin Odd Git, Wizarding level 1, a Wa Magic, Idol of Gork, which I think extends his casting value. I'm not 100% sure. Don't remember that far back anymore. Night Goblin Odd Knob, that's a level 3 on Wa Magic. Staff of Badroom, that ended up being quite a big part of the game, but not for the reasons that you think. I'll explain that in a wee minute. He also had 2 Orc War Bosses, both on Wyverns, both with great weapons, heavy armor. One with both had Troll Hide Trousers, and one had the Talisman of Protection, while the other one had the Effigy of Mork, which I think was a -1 to hit in combat. Paired with those, he had 3 units of Night Goblins with full Fanatics and full command. Pretty standard after there. He had 2 units of 7 Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, 2 Doom Divers, and a Goblin Rock Lobber as well. And here is how we deployed. Game 2 was King of the Hill. It also had the random game length of breakpoint, so as soon as one of us hit the breakpoint, the game would end. Basically at the end of that turn, even if you got an unequal amount of turns. I think Matt had a pretty high breakpoint of 39 because he had so many goblins, and my breakpoint was 25, which is still higher than I usually am used to in a Chaos army, but it wasn't a particularly high one in this case. So basically there was also the hill to be controlled in the middle. Yeah, there was the hill. We didn't really play any other special rules there. There's no Vanguard, and at the at the end of each player's turn, whoever controls the hill gets an additional 100 victory points, which can really rack up, because if you control it from turn 1 and you control it for say 6 turns, you can get 1,200 victory points there, which is pretty massive. On top of 500 victory points if you break your opponent as well. So this was one that had potential to go really big. Let's have a look and see how we deployed there. There we go. So that is basically us. You'll see the big green sort of oval in the middle. That was the hill. Just to make, because it was going to be something that was fought over, to make it easier, we used sort of a 2D cutout with a little point in the middle to show you where the center of the board was. Start of the turn, start of the game, I basically deployed my cannons near sort of the right hand side. Some peasants scattered throughout. My wizard now going into the big unit, big block there, who actually got Oaken Shield, Arcane Urgency, and Hammerhand. Basically good sort of combat type spells in case I had to fight any goblins. Peg Knights going near the middle. Matt deployed all 3 of his units of goblins in the middle there. Now the reason he did that is you'll not really see it here, but there is actually a wood underneath these 2 units here. And what Matt wanted to do was to make sure that the Green Knight didn't have a space to come on and come and take out any war machines. And the way he deployed, there wasn't any space for the Green Knight to come on. The Wyverns flanked the sides here, and Matt got the first turn to go and try and get some points. Let's have a little look and see what it looked like after the first turn. Yeah, this is the first turn. At the end of first turn, believe it or not. So what happened was Matt basically, the very first spell of the game, he miscast. The Staff of Badoom, when it miscasts, you destroy the item, and you also get a big 5-inch template in the middle of the wizard. That basically is strength 5 or something, and it killed that plus the miscast, which was a small template I think he got. He killed something like 10 or 12 goblins from that unit, which actually reduced the rank of that unit in order for there to be enough space for the Green Knight to come up behind him, which is a problem. The Green Knight did, in fact, come on turn 1, and I decided to charge that unit from the back with a Green Knight because he was in a wood, so he wouldn't get his ranks. I was hoping to sort of terror them off, but they actually held, and the Green Knight ended up sort of chasing them for a little while. What I did decide to do was actually with my Peg Knights to charge his other Goblin unit, which was in the woods, this one here, because again he wouldn't have a lot of rank bonus, and I think I was only something like 17 inches away because he moved a little bit closer to me to the hill, and it basically the Peg Knights connected with that unit, overran into the middle unit, which made us do another round of combat, the one with the Green Knight. That unit fled and it was running off the board with all his wizards by the end of turn 1. Pretty nasty turn. I'd claimed the middle, so I started to get objective points from that point onwards. Matt's wizards started to come on. Wyverns started to come on from the side to try and come and threaten to get some points. But a pretty rough start I think for him. And if I'm not wrong, I think his rock clobber probably panicked off the board, or it got shot off by a cannon, and I think it got shot off by a cannon maybe in turn 1. Yeah, so he already lost a piece of artillery there. Pretty rough start, to be honest, a really rough start from Art, a really, really bad bit of luck. End of turn 2, I believe the big block of the wizards actually did rally, and ended up trying to go away. The Green Knight basically pursued them to try and kill off the wizards and start challenging people and try and get points that way. Matt charged me with both the wyverns, but because I had countercharge, I was able to countercharge one of the wyverns, which meant that the other wyvern actually failed the charge. The Baron killed that wyvern in one go pretty much. It was pretty rough, which meant that my Peg Knights could turn around and come back and basically try and get the other wyvern as well. It's not a... I mean, it's pretty brutal. This is like turn 2, and there's not a huge amount left on the table already. He has things fleeing. He's got barely enough to keep him on the board because I remember as soon as he hits 35, he would have broken and the game would have ended there and then. I was actually trying to keep the game going a little bit longer so that my unit in the middle could claim more points for objectives. They ended up, I think, only claiming a few more. And this, I believe, yeah, this is what it looked like at the end of the game. Matt decided to just heroically charge the Pegasus Knights with his last remaining unit of Night Goblins here. And despite my best attempts, I basically destroyed enough to break him. I think in the end what did happen was the Green Knight won that combat. The unit fled through the Wyvern who lost combat previously, and then my Green Knight connected with the Wyvern, and I think he killed the Wyvern there as well. So, and that ended the game. That broke the game. I think it was around about turn. It must have been end of turn 3. There wasn't a huge amount left on the board. Matt had that unit that was fleeing, that unit which was pretty much destroyed, and a Doom Diver as well. So to be honest, pretty rough. Pretty rough start for him there. In the end, the score was I lost my unit of knights, 120 points, and Matt got 100 points for holding the objective, the King of the Hill, in the beginning of the game. I pretty much got most of his points. I got 1,902, and I got 500 points for breaking him, and another 700 points for victory objective. So I think we lasted till the end of turn 4 in this one. In the end, it was a big result. I believe I got 3,102 versus his 220, so for a big 6-0 win there. And that catapulted me into our third game. So let's have a little look at that. Game 3 was a chance encounter, which is the one with the funky setup deployment. It did include the special feature secondary objective in the middle. I'll be honest, we didn't actually roll for any of its abilities. We kind of forgot, and it didn't really come up. So disregard that, but it only gives up like an additional 100 points at the end of the game. It wasn't like a major part of it. The deployment was quite fun, so that was slightly different. And breakpoint, this is another breakpoint scenario, so this is definitely one that I didn't really want to be facing against vampires or any undead. Unfortunately, that's not how that turned out. Let's have a look. Game 3, I came up against one of England's finest, Scott Reid. He was playing his Tomb Kings, his Mortuary Cult. Actually, no, I think it was the Royal Host. It was the Royal Host. So quite a nasty list. It was one of the probably toughest games that I could have drawn in the game, in the event. Scott had a Mortuary Priest level 1 with Illusion. He had one Tomb King, which made him the Hierophant. On the Bone Dragon, so did my Armor of Ages, Talisman of Protection. So you're re-rolling the wounds there. It's got magical attacks as well, which is nasty. He had another Tomb King on a dragon who had Blade of Antara, which is basically for every wounds that he does, he gets a wound back. And he had a ward save basically as well. So he had two quite nasty combat dragons, or as nasty as Tomb King dragons get. He had a unit of 16 skeleton archers, another unit that was a detachment of the same. He had two skeleton chariot champions with burning blades, so again, more magical attacks. He had an absolutely humongous 80 skeleton infantry cohort, and this is the one where the front row is all warriors and the next 7 rows are all shooting. So I faced versions of this in the past. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's still a very nasty list. It's undead. It doesn't really go anywhere. He had Amulet of the Serpent, which meant he had poison, and he had reserve move on it as well. So volley fire, movement, shooting, minuses to hit, just a horribleness. I'm glad I didn't face it in round 2, but it wasn't particularly much better facing it in round 3. To finish off the list, he had 10 skeleton skirmishers, which were in ambush, and 2 screaming skull catapults. So let's have a look and see how we deployed. So this was our deployment. You can see Scott's army at the top left there. I'm in the bottom right. Basically, I have my cannons sort of other side of the hill because I know that his dragons are going to be somewhere close and I wanted some range. I have some peasants round about here just to sort of dance around and be able to take some, I don't know, any wounds that I can possibly do. There was a wood in the middle here, and there was a wood in the bottom left. He didn't have any natural terrain in his, so I couldn't sneak up on him with the Green Knight in that way. He deployed both his dragons here sort of quite aggressively, big block in the middle, up against the wall here, which meant that I couldn't really charge from this angle. Some archers here, Screaming Skull, 2 chariots, and a unit of bowmen there as well. So that was our deployment. So one thing I should note really, which I thought was quite clever, because I'm a genius, is that the Pegasus Knights were deployed here in the wood, which didn't really make much of a difference, but they were behind the unit of yeomen. And the yeomen were strung out in a line, so it meant that Scott's big Tomb King archer block thing couldn't shoot my knights turn 1 because they couldn't see them because they're the same height technically that the yeomen are as well. So that I was hoping if I didn't get first turn, which I didn't, that my unit was basically be able to stay alive for at least another turn and hopefully not take too much damage. Let's have a little look how things look like at the end of turn 1. Scott won the priority to go first. So one of his dragons went around the flank to try and start picking up points there. His other dragon went around the other flank to try, and then everything just basically, the nasty stuff started marching towards me. My Pegasus Knights, now I believe, if I'm not wrong, I can't actually see the Green Knight here, but I think he did come on turn 1. And I had a choice. I could basically put him in the wood in the middle here, and I charge into this dragon and keep him busy. Or I could go into this wood and keep his general dragon busy. That's the one with the rerolling to wound. Neither was a great option, to be honest. I didn't really want either of those dragons to come to get things, but I thought I'll keep the more expensive one busy and then have my Pegasus Knights go after the stuff that's in the top left corner, let them pick up a ward save and start basically munching through some points, and then come back and help the Green Knight, and hopefully I still had some things left in the bottom right here by the end of that. That was the plan. Let's have a look and see how it went. This is the end of turn 2. As predicted, the Green Knight went into the flank of his general dragon king, whatever, and just kept him busy. He only has like 4 or 5 attacks, and yeah, he's hitting and wounding me, but I have a decent armor save and a ward save, so it just sort of, they kept each other busy. It meant that the big skeleton block was actually getting a bit because he keeps giving ground because I was in the flank. He basically can't move that skeleton block too far. My Pegasus Knights in the top left corner here, they munched through a unit of skeletons, munched through a Screaming Skull catapult, and basically were turning around to come in and have a little look and see what else they wanted to have a go at. This artillery here and all the peasants are shooting at this other dragon, not having a huge amount of luck. I think I got it down to a couple of, I got a couple of wounds off it, but it was still very much sort of rampaging through my lines. I was doing my best to keep it busy as much as possible, fleeing with war machines when necessary. I think I actually got a pretty good flee, and then I rallied, if I remember correctly, which meant that either his dragon was needing to go waste another turn to kill a bombard, which is like 100 points, or it could come back and start threatening to get some more big points there as well. So that's the end of turn 2. Let's have a look at the next turn. This is turn 3. It feels like, yeah, it is a couple of, it feels like it's quite a few turns along, but maybe, no, that probably is about turn 3. So in the bottom right here, Scott decided to turn around and start hunting my yeoman. His chariots are coming in here at the bottom, so they're trying to pick up the easy points here. For me, the Green Knight's still keeping his Chaos Dragon, his Tomb King Dragon busy. And my Pegasus Knights decided to charge the flank of the Skeleton Horde. Now, the reason for that was basically, I thought I could maybe, over the course of several turns, start to whittle it down. I think I had it looks like that unit's halved, so that's why I think it might actually be a little bit later down in the turn. But I did manage to start, eating sort of like 10 to 20 of these guys per turn, per combat phase. So I guess, yeah, 40, yeah, that is probably after 2 rounds of combat. I started to, eat quite a few of these guys there over the course of several turns. In the end, I didn't. This game got called on turn, so I actually ran out of time to get any more points. The Skeleton Horde eventually, and let's have a look at the next turn. Eventually, I got it down to five guys, and I could either follow up and kill this unit off to get about 200 odd points, or I could try and go for a rear charge on his Tomb King Dragon. And if I managed to kill the Tomb King Dragon, not only would I get obviously all the points for the dragon and the general, but I also would have broken Scott's breakpoint as well. So that I thought was worth a shot. His dragon here at the bottom basically cleared up a whole bunch of points. A bunch of peasants ran off. My yeoman, however, did manage to escape his grasp, and they sort of kept going in that front there. And I still have a few peasants on the right hand side here. So overall, didn't lose too much. Maybe 120 points to keep his sort of dragon busy for another round here. And if I'm not wrong, I think that next turn is turn 4 or 5. Let's have a quick look. It's turn 5. So we got to turn 5 on this one. And that was the end of the game because we ran out of time to go any further. His Tomb King dragon guy here. Basically, I did win combat twice in 2 rounds of combat. However, because of the current rules for regeneration, he gets to take a regeneration save on his crumble tests. And Scott managed to save the last 2 wounds or whatever it was on the dragon on his crumble tests, which stopped that dragon from dying and stopped me from getting a big win on here. So at the end of the game, neither of us is broken. I think Scott is maybe 4 skeletons down from being broken. I still have a fair bit of unit strength, especially with the pegs in the middle. However, these guys, the yeoman would have probably died as well. So in the end, it ended up a very, very, very narrow game. I lost The Wizard, I lost a unit of Knights, I lost a unit of Peasants, and a Bombard for 410, and Scott lost 55 points for something. I think it must have been one of the Archer units. He lost. I got half points for the big unit of skeletons. I got some partial points for another unit, or his level 1 or something, I think it was. Another 243 points probably for I think there might be some partial points on the dragon. Yeah, I got some partial points on the dragon there as well. And then 105, I think it was, for a Scream Skull Catapult. And also, neither of us got the objective, because unfortunately, both of us didn't have a unit strength 10. I think my guys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 here, pegs don't get it, and these guys aren't strong enough, so nobody got the objective at the end of the game. So, in the end, Scott got 729 victory points to my 410. Sorry, apologies, the other way around. Scott got 410 victory points to my 729, leaving it a difference of 319 in my favour, which was by 19 points or 18 points. It was a 4-2 to me. A very, very tight game, very difficult against a really good opponent. Yeah, I was very happy to smash. Thanks, Scott. Let's have a look at the next game. So game 4 was on the Sunday morning. After a couple of drinks the night before, we settled into this next round here. So round 4 was Upon the Field of Glory. It was fixed turn limit, 6 turns. It was pretty simple, straightforward deployment, and just 3 objectives in the middle. Domination as well as a secondary one. There was nothing complicated about this one. It was a nice, easy one to sort of start the Sunday morning on. And I managed to draw one of Scott Reid's clubmates, which was Andrew Tundrik. So Andrew was running a Khorne Chaos Demons list. He had a Bloodthirster with a Blood Flail, Collar of Khorne, and Armor of Khorne. Essentially, it meant that he had, I think, Magic Resistance 2 at the very least. He had the permanent 5-up ward, so magic attacks don't take it away. He had a Demon Prince with Heavy Armor, Fly, Demon Zinch for the +1 to cast, I think it had. Level 4 Demonology, Twin Heads for an extra spell, and he had a Vortex, which was like -1 to cast, I think, if you were within range of him, or something, if you were within his Dispel range. So it's a very magic negative list. That continues on into the next one. 21 Bloodletters of Khorne, who had full command, and the Standard of Sundering, which I believe is when a wizard can draw line of sight to that banner, they are -1 to cast. So this whole list was like -2 to cast, magic resistance 1 or 2 and everything. It was pretty horrendous. Luckily, I wasn't a particularly magic heavy list, so for me it was a phenomenal matchup. For Andy, probably not the very best. He had 2 units of 6 Flesh Hands of Khorne, 1 which was ambushing, 1 vanguarding, and 2 Skull Cannons of Khorne. So let's have a little look and see how we deployed. Here's what it looked like when we deployed. Basically, at the bottom left here, I had some peasants, some knights. We had a little my peg knights in the middle, so they can charge whatever the hell they wanted. Peasants at the back here, just because I knew he was going to run at me. I basically tried to give myself as much range as possible. I had a little bombard here in the bottom left, and another one on the hill on the right hand side. I knew his hounds would probably come on the right hand side here, but I was hoping that I'd be able to get basically enough shots on his Bloodthirster to do a bit of damage. Andy deployed his Bloodletters in the middle, Skull Cannon here, a Skull Cannon to the side, protecting the Demon Prince, Bloodthirster out and proud on this side, and the unit of Vanguarding Hounds on the top left for me. In terms of terrain for my Green Knight, we have a little piece here at the bottom left, near my lines, and one sort of in the middle of the board here as well. This is the same table that I actually played on the previous turn, so it was quite, it was quite, I didn't have to move anywhere, so that's quite nice and easy. So that was our setup. Let's have a little look at the end of turn 1. So here's how things look like at the end of turn 1. Andy did get the +1, so he went first. Pushed his hounds on the very far side here, pushed his Bloodthirster forward, and I believe that's the Demon Prince. No, the Demon Prince is the far back here. So yeah, that's the Bloodthirster here. He also shot his cannons to try and take out my characters. I did actually fail a Lookout Sir on my general, but he was luckily only able to take 1 wound off, or 2 wounds off, which is very lucky. I could have very easily lost him there. For me, I put my pegs out in a big line, hoping to basically take out his Bloodletters in 1 turn, and then maybe start going for cannons or Demon Prince there as well. All my core started moving towards objectives, the 3 objectives in the middle there, to try and get some points there. Let's have a look and see at the end of turn 2. So as predicted in the bottom right, the Fleshhounds did come up and they were threatening my Bombard. I've got a unit of archers here which were on the objective on the right hand side. My yeomen were on the middle objective and my knights were on the left objective. So by the end of turn 2, basically all my core was capturing objectives and slowly trickling points in. What happened there was, you'll notice that the Bloodletters are way at the bottom here. What happened was Andy actually managed to cast Steed of Shadows on them and hop them over my Pegasus Knights, give me the choice to basically charge backwards or charge forwards and start taking out cannons and threatening a Demon Prince, which is basically what I decided to do. I thought those cannons are quite nasty, so I took out a cannon first and then threatened to go for a cannon or a Demon Prince next time. On the left hand side, the hounds died that's what it was. The Green Knight actually appeared out of the bottom left here, again on my turn 2, and managed to charge those hounds and kill them off. Andy decided to spin around with his Bloodthirster and start coming for the rest of these guys here in the middle, while I basically shot him with as many cannons as I could muster, trying to take off wounds here and there. So not a bad start of the game. Let's have a little look and see what the next turn brings. So this was a fun one. On the bottom right here, Andy did end up charging my Bombard. It was only 3 inches away from the hounds, but actually it did an absolutely phenomenal fallback and it fled a double 6. Andy, because the hounds don't have Swift Stride, he was actually out of range to catch them, so the Bombard got away, a sneaky little bugger. My knights here, my skirmishing bowmen moving along here to keep out of range of these hounds. The Bloodthirster coming in here to try and threaten some peasants, which I wasn't particularly bothered about. Andy did manage a long charge to some woods onto the other Bombard, which is a bit of a shame. I think he needed like a double 4 or double 5, and he got the double 5, and he managed to kill the Bombard in that turn. My pegs, however, continuing their rampage in the corner here, they did manage to kill his Demon Prince in a round, leaving the cannon there to sort of do its own thing for another turn. My other, I don't think I put any wounds onto the Bloodthirster this turn, but he's clearly got a couple of wounds off him. So that's the end of that turn. Next turn, the Bloodthirster clears up these peasants, but he stays on the board. My Bombard, which rallied the previous turn, actually turned round and shot some wounds off the Bloodthirster, which was quite lucky. My peasants here continued to flee. These guys are holding the center. My knights at the top here charged his skull cannon to clear that up. I think I actually pushed it off the board. I don't remember actually killing it. I think I pushed it off the board. The peg knights here are coming back in to try and basically pick up some points either from the Bloodthirster or the Bloodletters. The Green Knight is dancing around the Bloodletters to try and sort of charge them in the rear or the flank, because if I can't, I need some combat res basically to be able to outdo what he has as a solid block. My bowman in the bottom left corner, I think they just kept peppering this unit and basically just whittling wounds off it, and getting them down to lower and lower. That's end of turn 3. Turn 4, my Bombard managed to kill the Bloodthirster. Unfortunate for the Greater Demon of Khorne, but it was probably just as well, because I wasn't looking forward to having to charge it with my Pegasus Knights. We did roll it out in the end, and actually, if he had charged me and I counter-charged him, his Bloodthirster would have absolutely destroyed my general, so I'm glad that we didn't have to fight that fight, and the brave cannon, peasantry cannons destroy the mighty Bloodthirster. The bottom corner here, the Green Knight went into the Bloodletters, and I think he managed a phenomenal amount of attacks. He rolled an extra like 5 or 6 attacks, did lots and lots of wounds, and essentially popped them only just enough to pop the remaining unit. So that died, and then in the middle we just have a unit of Flesh Hands left who were getting peppered by Pillar of Fire, and then a few shots here and there. And if I'm not wrong, this is the end of turn 5, and all the demons are gone. Flesh Hands are gone, everything is gone, and my units are obviously capturing objective points here. So Andy really made me work for that one, but I think it was a fairly one-sided fight, and it ended up with me losing a Bombard, a unit of Peasants, and a Wizard, because I was stupid and I didn't take him out of the unit. He also got 60 points from objectives for 290 plus 60, 350 victory points in total. I got, well, his whole army really, which is about 2,000 odd points, 100 for the general. There was a banner in there, which is 2144 for the victory points, 800 for the... What was the 800? Oh, domination, yeah. So I had all the table quarters as well, so that was 800, and 660 for the victory points that I accumulated from the middle. So I basically got 1,460 from objectives, 2,144 from victory points. I got a massive 3,604 points from that game versus Andy's 350, giving me a pretty convincing 6-0 win. That was my game 4. And I was basically, I knew that I was heading into the final game, and I was basically expecting to have to face vampires or Cathay, because that was what was all around me. There was nothing but vampires playing each other, and Chris Cousens' Cathay list. Let's have a look and see at the next round what that had in store for us. The final match was Encirclement, slightly different deployment to the usual battle line. Nothing crazy about turn limit. It was just 6 turns. No special rules, and there was the 4 secondary location objectives, strategic location objectives as our objectives. There was nothing else there. This was on table 1, and it was against Mr. Chris Cousens with his Cathay list. Now, Chris and I are very good friends. We do the Aussie comp together. We chat a lot, and basically... he was the one that convinced me to bring Bretonnians rather than Chaos Warriors to this event, and I was the one that kept reminding him about all these extra rules that his army had, which he only remembered really in Game 5, which was to my detriment, but let's have a look and see what he brought. What did Chris bring? He brought Miao Ying, the Dragon General. She came with a friend, the Shogungan General, Celestial Blade, Heavy Armor, Wizard level 2, Lore of Yang, Battle Magic, Learn Feng Shi Bo, which I think is an extra spell, Alchemist's Mask, which is the Plague of Rust additional spell. He also had the Strategist, which was on a Lantern, which had the Dragonfire Bombs, Isle Hail Guns, Dragonfire Bombs, oh, more Dragonfire Bombs, yeah, Sky Lantern Bombs, Armor Meteoric Iron, that was the really nasty bit, and Talisman of Protection. It essentially had 5 up, which was very, very difficult to pin down and get. There was no way that I was going to be able to do that much damage to it in one round, and shooting it with cannons meant that he had a good chance of basically negating the damage. So that one was a very, very tricky one to catch. He had 8 Jade Lancers and Core who were drilled, stubborn, full command, and the icon of Heavenly Fury. That is the no-fly banner, which just activates. You just decide at the start of your turn when to activate it, and that is one that he did use. He also had 2 cannons with the Ogre Loaders, which are fairly standard, very nasty, and then another Lantern with Iron Hail Guns, Dragonfire Bombs, and Sky Lantern Bombs as well. Very nasty list. Cathay, just a very, very difficult list to fight against at the moment. But still has some weaknesses. I think my list had as good a chance as any, basically, to take it on, because it was able to sort of reach out and grab points, and I just needed a little bit of luck. Let's have a look and see how it panned out. Here's a picture of Chris and I just before we started our round on table 1. 2 Scottish guys. Chris is Scottish. We're adopting him. On table 1, fighting off for the biggest award in England up to date. So we're quite enjoying that irony there. So here's how we deployed. Basically, the table was. I should really confirm there was this big patch here was rough ground, but we played it so that you could take the Green Knight and bring him on there. He could also come on the bottom right here in this wood as well. I deployed my peasants sort of roundabout. I tried to deploy him closer to the line because I knew his lanterns could scout, so I was trying to keep them at a maximum distance from me as much as possible. That's why the knights were in this corner here. The pegs were in the middle to try and basically maximize my threat range. Purely by chance, really, that because of where they were, because how skinny this little building was, they were able to zone out this whole corner from the balloons to come on, basically. So he wasn't able to place the balloons in this corner and avoid me charging him. What you can't really tell here is this base right next to this balloon was actually the lantern. It was just the way that there was a socket there that was keeping the model from sitting there. So essentially these two balloons were right next to each other. My cannons were near the bottom right because I thought that I needed range, and they were positioned in order to shoot his cannons. Chris scouted his balloons behind the hill here. He put his drilled lancers in the corner. He put both the units of the foot troops here. There's a cannon at the back. That's the Shagungan general, and he started his Miao Ying as a human. The other cannon went on this side, and that was basically the start of our game. You can see the 4 objective points here as well. So let's have a look at the end of turn 1. Chris got the first turn, and I had a fair bit of luck here. So his first, I'll start with the cannons. His first cannon shot misfired. His first cannon shot rolled a 2 and then rolled a misfire, which meant that it wasn't going anywhere. He then re-rolled the second. He decided to shoot again, and it rolled a misfire, and then I think it was a 1, so it meant it basically destroyed itself in turn 1. Fantastic start. Second cannon, misfire. It rolled. It can't shoot next turn. I believe he try and misshoot it again. I think he did, and basically he just rolled something like 4 misfire dice in a row, which was incredibly bad luck. What I was able to do is my bombard was able to target it and basically kill it in 1 round, which is again incredibly lucky. Chris moved things forward. The Sky Lanterns came across this side, and my Pegasus Knights were able to charge it in turn 1. This is the non-character version of it, and it basically meant that I could destroy it and then have it overrun, have a ward save, and at least sit over here threatening to go and charge something else. Not a great start for Chris in the first round. Fantastic start for me. I was phenomenally happy with that there. End of turn 2, my Peg Knights continue the rampage. They actually went to go and kill the Lancers at this point here. I think Chris did pop the no-fly banner, but because I had all the modifiers that I needed, it wasn't particularly an issue, so I was still able to charge that. His cannon was dead. Miao Ying is moving forward. I think I was trying to capture, to some points here. Chris did manage to bring his character balloon in and essentially half my Yeoman Guard unit, and that is with them having a ward save. I think my cannon shot at Miao Ying and managed to only do maybe like 1 wound, and I think she warded the other save. So that was really quite fortunate for Chris, unfortunate for me. That's the end of turn 2, I believe. Turn 3, we have Miao Ying turning into a dragon, starting to blast my my poor core here. This balloon here basically destroyed the rest of the yeomen and caused them to flee at the bottom here. My peasants are starting to run away here and just take an awful lot of damage from this 3 unit of characters. at the top here, my Pegasus Knights killed another unit of Jade Guard or Jade Warriors, and we're now in the rough patch, basically looking to see whether to charge one of his characters or to charge his Jade Lancers here, Jade Warriors here. My Green Knight was attacking them. He wasn't doing particularly well, but to be honest, they have a 3-up armor save rerolling 1s. It was a 4-up after modifiers, and I was killing maybe 1 or 2. It really wasn't going anywhere, and he was always winning. He was often winning combat. I really probably should have stopped fighting that and went after the rest of the army. But I did think that going after Miao Ying would be pointless because she'd probably destroy me. She's got magical attacks. And going up the other 2, I probably wouldn't be able to catch them, so he'd be able to charge me. But he's clearing up points in the bottom right here. I'm clearing up points in the top left here. So let's have a look. Next round, end of turn 4, I basically put my my Peg Knights in the middle here to try and threaten one of his characters. Hopefully being able to catch one of them the next turn. The Green Knight decided to not follow up on the previous one and try and tear these guys off. He didn't, unfortunately. I think they passed something like 3 terror tests, and they did end up actually, I think, crumbling him out. I think I don't really have very much left here. Most of my peasants are pretty much dead, apart from these in the top left here, capturing some points. And this is the end. I think this is actually turn 6. What happened here is basically I decided, Chris put his Miao Ying over in the top right hand corner behind this building here. I know it doesn't look like it here, but we measured it out and it was. And essentially my Pegasus Knights couldn't charge it. They instead, the balloon that was here was just going to flee, and I wasn't going to kill it in one round. So it just went across to, floated towards killing my dudes. My Green Knight, this is the end of turn 5, yeah. My Green Knight crumbled at this point, and the Jade Warriors actually were winning combat. So in my last turn, I did manage to roll the Green Knight. He managed to charge again into these Jade Warriors, and they passed their terror test again. And he didn't do anything to them, essentially. The Pegasus Knights managed to charge the Shogungan General. However, despite winning combat by about 3, he actually passed his break test and ended up staying on the board. So at the end of that game, I lost the Wizard, I lost all my Peasants, all my Bombards. Actually, 1 unit of Peasants survived, but 908 points is how much I lost. I lost 273 objectives. Chris lost most of his sort of like core, apart from these guys, his cannons as well, for 948 and 423 objectives. So in total, I lost 1,178 points, and Chris lost 1,368, giving a difference of about 190. But at the end of the day, it was basically a 3-3 draw. Let's have a look at the final results. And here is the final scores on the doors and the runners and the riders of Toy Soldier 2025 and where everybody placed. Let's have a little look. Holding up the leaderboard in last place is Ewan Ronald with Chaos. Having lost all 5 of his games, he did end up in last place. A strong showing there. It's impressive to not win any games, but somebody does manage to do it, so good on Ewan on getting that there. Painting award went to, it was Mark Craufurd, who I faced in round 2. I showed you the Orc and Goblin army. It won Best Painted by a very close margin, but it was a very hotly contested prize. There were a few really, really nice armies there, so well done on him. Best Sports went to Scott Reid, which is my round 3 opponent. Scott's a great gent. We went out on Friday night and had a nice dinner with him and Andy and Stan, and it was really good. It was really good fun. So I can see why he did so well on the Best Sports there as well. Let's scroll up a little bit on the leaderboard. Let's have a look. In 3rd place, we have Mark Muslick with his Vampires. Very nasty list. He won 3 games, drew 2. Keith Wilkinson also on 2nd place, having won 3 games, lost 1 and drew 1. And yours truly, me, having won the 1st place there with my Bretonians. Now, interesting point is all 3 of us are actually on the same tournament point score. All of us have got 22 points. So the only difference between the 3 placings is basically the victory points. Me having scored a fair bit of victory points in some of my earlier games really carried me forward, I think. But really being only about 500 points, victory points difference between myself and Keith, and then another, 700 odd points between Keith and Mark. The rest of the top 10, really, really tight. 1 point behind the leaderboard. Literally 1 point behind, we have Scott Reid in 4th with his Royal Host. In 5th place, we have Kevin Horseman, Max, who is the TO. So both the assistant referee TOs came in the top 5. So he had his, is that Bretonians? It is Tomb Kings. Oh, Tomb Kings, apologies. Tomb Kings. Then in 6th place, we've got Jack Toal with his Bretonian Exiles. Sam Toal in 7th place with Vampires. 8th place is Chris, who I faced in the final. Bit rough for Chris, to be honest. Having drawn on table 1 and ended up in 8th place by virtue of 1 tournament point, just because he didn't have a huge amount of victory points, really pushed him out of that sort of top 5, which is really quite rough, I think. Last 2 places in the top 10 went to Jack Ward with his Expeditionary Force, and Pip Hamilton with his VC in 10th. So top 10 are looking like we have 2 Exiles, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 VC, we have 2 Tomb Kings, and we have an Expeditionary Force and a Cathay. Not a huge spread of armies, to be 100% honest. Basically, you're looking at Undead, some flavour of Undead dominating half the board. Bretonians always do fairly well. No Chaos in the top 10, which is interesting. I think the first Chaos player, Adrian, was in 14th. Also interesting to see that, under the win-loss draw, I think Kevin might have been on the podium there due to having had 4 wins. Yeah, interesting. I'm not a massive fan of win-loss draw. I don't think it's the best system at all. But I think the 6-0 system is also probably perhaps a little bit flawed as well. Perhaps the 20-0 system that we had of old might be a little bit better for having a larger spread in those armies. I'm not sure what the score would have been had we had the 20-0 system. I'm sure somebody will work that out. But it would have been nice to see a slightly larger spread rather than just having to go to tiebreakers for the top 1, 2, 3 placings. And what difference has that made to the UK's Masters rankings? Let's have a look. Keith has been pushed into 1st place. He was in 2nd place before. Scott Reid's jumped up to 2nd place. They've obviously done really well. Steve Toal, unfortunately, didn't do so well after I drew him in the first round. He's dropped a couple of places there. Who else? Jack was there. He's jumped up a few places. I jumped up a good few places as well into 7th place. Mark's jumped up. Jake wasn't there, so he must have been playing at another event. Sam Freestone, he's jumped up as well. He was there. Sam Toal was there. He's jumped a few places. Pip's actually dropped a few places. And then that's it. So basically, out of the top 20 that are in here, we had Pip, we had Sam, we had the other Sam, we had Mark, we had myself, Jack Ward, Jack Toal, Stephen Toal, Scott, and Keith. So the Toal's very much dominating the top 20 there of Warhammer, but maybe not quite the top 3 of that event. So overall, I think it was a good event. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Dave and the crew did a really, really good, well-run event. If you get the chance to go to another Toy Soldier, and I believe there will be another one, they'll be doing 2 a year. And the next one, I believe, will be at some point in February and March next year. I would highly recommend going to Element Games. Northwest Gaming Centre is a really good venue. It's the best version I've ever seen of it, and I've been going to it for probably about 20 years. And it's definitely improved every single time I go there. So very, very much enjoyable. I can recommend a kebab place not too far away from there, which is probably does the best kebabs. I think it's Heavily or something. Heavily Kebabs or Heavily Tandoori. It's a phenomenal place, so definitely check that out if you get a chance. But also this event, absolutely fantastic, highly recommended, did a really, really good job, really, really tough games. I was very lucky, I'll admit, because I did not draw one VC player and there was a lot round about me. I did get good pairings, and I think, to be honest, you need that in order to win an event. You need the good pairings that work with the army that you've got. Having said that, the army that I brought this time was a very good choice because I was able to compete for objectives as well as obviously go out and get points and those cannons are phenomenal. They were able to pick up points at range. So I don't think I would have been able to do the same result with my Chaos or Hiles. It was definitely very much taking an army that was good for the scenarios and the meta and the rules pack, and I guess my gamble paid off. So I was quite very happy with that. Obviously, probably the biggest win that I've had in Old World, which is always good. And it was on Ukrainian Independence Day, which I'm, as a proud Ukrainian, very happy with as well. So definitely very good. I hope you will get the chance to check it out as well. And I hope this video has been useful to you. If it has, please smash that like button, give us a subscribe, and yeah, share it with your friends, give us a wee comment, see what you think, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.